Thank you, Minister. We're coming back to Ms Benham for the next 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Afternoon, Minister. Budget paper 3, page 149, shows that there's funding for portfolio agencies is dropping by 97.5 million or 17% compared to the revised figure this year or for last year. What's being cut?
Agencies. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at the budget paper reference.
Minister?
Okay, budget paper 3, page 149.
Yeah, so there's actually more base funding for our creative agencies this year. We recognise that coming out of COVID, agencies were operating in a complex environment. Some of them were operating above their budget, and so we've set their budgets, their base budgets this year at a slightly higher level to provide adequate funding for them to do their job. And so I think you'll find...
The revised figure for 24-25 is 569.
Yeah, I'll hand over to the Secretary.
Thank you. I'm happy to take the job of Secretary, thank you. Well, maybe not. So I think that you're comparing the actual for this year versus the target for next year, is that right?
Correct.
So it would be more accurate to compare the target for this year with the target for next.
Okay.
Because the actual will include obviously things that come up throughout the course of a financial year, but also where the agencies have positive and perhaps higher than expected revenue outcomes, that would also be captured in that figure.
Okay, so what's exactly the reason then for the higher actual figure than the 24-25 budget? The 24-25 budget was 410 and the actuals are 569.
So as I've just described, so if there are allocations made throughout the financial year for operational reasons or purposes, and then also because that figure captures own earned revenue, and there were some really positive revenue outcomes that the Minister has talked about in this financial year. So for example, the exhibitions that were very successful would contribute to that total amount. Yeah, so there's no, can we guarantee that there's no essential services or programs are being cut? Nothing being cut in portfolios?
Our agencies, they do a fantastic job. They'll continue to do a fantastic job. And as the, sorry, and I found the reference you were talking about, as the CEO has just said, the funding, base funding for the creative agencies is going from 410 to 471. So there's an increase in their base funding to allow them to, and it's important as well in terms of the increase in base funding to understand that it gives them certainty over the forward years to understand what that funding level is so they can plan to run programs into the future.
Can we get a breakdown of the unanticipated additional revenue and or other funding that you received that's causing that blip? Is that possible?
Yeah, let me take it on notice and see what we can provide.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Minister, what do you expect to come from the Silver Review? Is there any consequences for your department? Have you been advised?
I haven't seen the Silver Review yet, and I understand that's going to the Premier at a later date. So I don't know if the Secretary's got any further information on it.
Is there expectation, Secretary, in terms of, is there a figure that the review is seeking in terms of, there's lots of words we use for these things, efficiency, target, goal, whatever?
There's lots of speculation about what the Silver Review might come back with, but my understanding is that the Silver Review is anticipated to report back basically, I think, end of June, maybe into July. Please don't hold me to a precise time frame about when it is, and then government will consider what the recommendations are, and no doubt departments will understand further from there.
You haven't seen an interim report?
No, I have not seen an interim report.
Have you got any more questions? There you go. Oh, there you go. Okay.
If you have, Miss Benham, you have it, please share it with me.
No. I'm trying to get a copy. I'm just trying to find out who exactly has seen this report and who hasn't. It would be very handy if the...
I think it's literally still being written as we speak.
So can I just come back to the earlier question I asked about the Museums Victoria? So has there been any staffing changes as a consequence of the investigations, plural?
Look, not that I'm aware of, and as I say, I've spoken to the CEO in advance of writing to her, which I've done. She'll come back to me with a formal response, and so then I'll have more information at hand.
And I was asking before I was cut off by the bell, unfortunately, but will there be a public report or public account then of what has actually occurred? So if everyone's been cleared, happy days, but let's know that as opposed to...
Yeah, it's a good question, Mr McGowan. Without actually seeing the information at hand, I'm not in a position to sort of say whether that's required. I do come back to the point that the Ombudsman Ombudsman's Office have taken a look at this, and as you're aware, there's a number of options they have in terms of what they can do, but
I'm very
they
conscious-
basically didn't
I'm very conscious
get
of
to
the
a
threshold,
point
the
of-
threshold for IBAC and the Ombudsman.
Thanks, Mr. McGowan.
Or powered down.
Going back to Ms. Cafferty.